Hello everyone, this is David. Today we're going to try to restore a headlamp, and what we've done is we've gone to Walmart and we've purchased a product. This is it, and this product is by Rust-Oleum, and let's have a look and see what's inside. So inside there's a few things. First off, what we have in here is basically it looks like a little bit of a kit. So the kit, if we open it up, has a few different things in it. Number one, it has a polishing pad, and we're going to use this in just a moment. It also comes with some safety latex gloves, and why we need those will be apparent in just a minute. It comes with they call it a professional polishing pad, and of course it has instructions, which we're going to need those in a minute. And then also comes a little bit separately, but also in the box, it comes with this Rust-Oleum product that we're going to be putting on the pad. So when we talk about what we're going to need to do in this process, so I've had a chance to look through the instructions already, and the instructions are pretty simple, which is nice. So this should only take actually a few minutes. So first thing we're going to do is let's have a look at the headlamp. So if you look at the headlamp, this is the one we're going to treat today. Actually, we're going to do both of them. They look the same. As you can tell, you can't really see very well through this plastic. It's pretty opaque. It's kind of, you can feel it. It's kind of rough, so obviously been battered for some period of time. First thing we're going to do is we're going to clean that, and once it's had a chance to dry, then the next step that we're going to do is we're going to take our pad, and we're going to be wearing gloves this time, and we're going to basically apply this polish. That'll be one of the steps. Before we get to this, actually, one thing I need to mention is the first step we're actually going to do is when we get this wet, we're going to see what the final product is going to look like. When it's wet, that's supposedly a good simulation of what the final step is going to look like. If it doesn't look good at that stage, that's when we use this particular pad. It doesn't necessarily need to be used. It's really going to depend on how damaged your headlamp is, but we'll use this actually to make the scratches and that kind of thing even finer. And then once we get it wet again and it looks right, then we're done with that pad, and that's when we're going to start using this towel and this product. So wearing the gloves, I'm going to apply this product to this hand towel. Then the basic idea, if we have another look down here at the headlamp, so I'll take it and I'll basically wipe once across. That's all it takes, is a one time. And we'll do that to the entire headlamp. Obviously then we'll move to another one, and really we're done. We let it dry, and in theory, what it's going to do, we have a quick look at the product again. They show a nice picture here of the before and after. So before, you can tell this is very similar to mine, and after, a nice clear headlamp. So let's have a look and see if this is going to work. We'll take a break here, come back in a minute, wash up the lamp, and then we can move on to the final step. Okay, hello YouTubers, we're back here now for the washing step. I grabbed a bucket really quickly, and in here all I've done is I basically just put some water with some dish soap. So nothing special. I don't need a lot of water. This is a pretty small surface. Now I grabbed one of these pads. Don't tell my wife. Not sure I really want to use this kind of bristle. It might actually scratch the grass. I'm going to do it anyway. And we'll see if any of you have done this before and know this is not a good idea. Feel free to leave comments down below. Let me know. But this is what I'm going to use. It's the kind of pad that has basically the blue level of coarseness. And so we're going to try this first. So let's have a quick look, see what it's going to look like here. Just going to softly kind of scrub and get an idea. You can see there's a lot of debris. We recently drove over to Texas. It's in the spring right now. There are a ton of bugs on the way there. So anyway, as you can see, it's moistening. It's coming right up. It's looking a little bit better already. So it's still, to me, when I look at it, that's not very clear. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to plan on using this little polishing pad here in a second. But I'll start with that. What I think I'll do is now I'm going to go do the other one, and I'll come back in a minute and we'll do the polishing pad and show you what we did there. Okay, so we're here now with the next step, and the idea is I can clearly see, looking at the haze on this headlamp, that it's not going to be pretty when it's done. Here, I have the squirt bottle. Quickly spray it real quick to give you an idea. It looks okay, but clearly not as clear as new car kind of thing. So what they've told me to do is there's a couple different sides to these polishing pads, a green side and a gray side. Step one is really to use the green side. So that's obviously the most coarse one, and we'll go to a fine one second. And what I'm going to do is, while this is wet, this is kind of a wet sanding technique, we're going to use this to then quickly go over the headlamp. So you'll notice a little bit of a paste is forming. That's obviously the plastic itself coming off with the wet sanding. Notice what I'm trying to do is just go back and forth, not necessarily go in a circular pattern. So here I'm just working my way back over it. Get a little more wet here to make sure it stays wet. Just kind of work it through. So I'll spend here a minute going over the entire headlamp doing this, and when I come back I'll clean it off. We'll have another quick look and see what it looks like, and then maybe we'll proceed to the gray pad if it looks like it's necessary. I've just used the polishing pad on the green side only, and let's have a quick look. It's had a chance. It's kind of streaking right now. It's drying a little bit, but if we want to see what it's going to look like now if I were to apply that polishing product, this is now the wet look. The wet look in theory is the way it's supposed to look. What I notice is it's a little more uniform now in terms of the way the scratchiness looks. It's not as blotchy, maybe not as bad, but no, it doesn't look final to me. So I think this tells me I need to move to the next step and use the gray pad. And so I will use the gray pad again, make this wet, use the gray pad, go over it for a couple minutes here, again same direction, and then we'll come back and we'll have a look and see what it finally looks like. While I'm doing this, I guess just a quick note, I'm essentially using sandpaper, right? So with this sandpaper, I'm trying to be somewhat careful and not actually hit the paint. We're obviously not trying to take scratches out of the paint necessarily, so being careful about that. They do actually warn you about that in the instructions, so be careful as you're doing this. Don't necessarily hit the paint. You don't want to do that. We're back, and basically what we've just completed doing was keeping the headlamp really wet. We used the polishing pad, first the green side and then the gray side. Interesting side note, when you take your fingernail and you kind of scratch the green side versus scratch the gray side, you can kind of feel, you're more sensitive with your fingernail, you can kind of feel how coarse it is. Strange to us, it feels more coarse on the gray side, and yet we're doing that second, so it's kind of strange. Another interesting phenomenon is when we wetted and kept the headlamps really wet, when you get them wet, the part that we had scratched, interestingly the water beaded. Where on the part that we hadn't got to yet, it actually just sort of ran off. It was kind of interesting. So for some reason they want it kind of scratched and kind of beating up there. So it's interesting. Anyway, where we're at now is we're done. We're going to use these towels that they provided, or this towel they provided, and just basically make sure that everything is nice and dry. I'll go ahead and go over and do the other headlamp too, but when we come back, this is when we start using the gloves and we start to apply the product, and we'll come back and do that in just a second. So I've got the package and I've got the gloves. Again, important point here, no glove, no love. It's important, this stuff's a solvent, it's nasty. We're out here outside right now. They want you to be in an open area. A couple other tidbits they happen to give, here's them opening this, is don't do this exercise unless you know it's going to be dry. Also, don't do it in the sun. You notice we're kind of in the shade. Not exactly sure when we're going to have rain again. I'm really hoping it's not in the next 24 hours. We will see. If I'm wrong about that, then I'll come back, film it. In theory, then, if there is a little bit of moisture, then it could actually be spotted or streaked. So anyway, I've opened it up, and what you notice inside is another little towelette that has the Wipe New product on it. Again, some kind of solvent. And what I'm going to do basically is wipe this from one side to the other one time. You're not supposed to go back over it. In fact, they say, let's say you do screw it up, you're gonna have to get a whole new package. You can't do this, use this again. A second wipe is not going to help or make it any better. So I got to make sure we get this right the first time. So I guess I'll fold it in half here, and I'm going to start wiping from one side to the other, and we'll see how we go. Okay, sort of even pressure, bring it all the way across. Covered the entire lens there. I'm going to fold it again because there's not as much left to do. Wiping it Okay, here we go. Just trying to be careful so I don't have to go over the same spot more than once. Looks like I missed a little bit of a spot here. There's the first one. Why don't we go look at this again? Let's go look at the other. Okay, here we are at the second headlamp, the left side, and what you're going to notice is this one actually was a little cleaner than the other one. It wasn't blurry or opaque all the way down. Just this top part really needed to be cleaned up. So here you can see it's a lot clearer. Here it's up top. Hopefully you can see that. I'm still going to go over both with this cloth, and let's have a look to see you know, what it does. This opaque area versus the clear one. It'll be interesting. Okay, here we go. Couple observations as we're going through here. It looks a little streaky. See like little ridges that go in the same direction that I pulled in. So see if it dries out any flatter. Might not be able to see it, but just imagine kind of waves on the ocean rather than being, you know, perfectly flat. A little bit of waves there. So we'll see if it kind of settles, if it's kind of self-leveling or not. We'll see. So, you know, that's in theory it. We're going to let it be dry now. Supposed to let it dry now for at least an hour, and again, in terms of moisture, 24 hours, but at least an hour. Don't touch it, don't mess with it, and that's it. So we'll come film it again about an hour later. Hello, it's about 24 hours later, and here is the headlamp. This is the worst of the two, so I'm trying to get a little close here and see if you notice anything. Looks pretty good. We had a little bit of a light rain here. Fortunately, that was, as I was mentioning, just a little bit over 24 hours later. So no impact. It hasn't really caused any additional fogging. So looks reasonable. You know, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would I rate it? I'd probably rate it maybe a 7, maybe an 8. Would I rate it a 10? Does it look crystal clear? No, but we'll do a contrast to the other lens here in just a second. Here's the other lens, and so you probably notice the lower part of the lens, like, you know, down in here, crystal clear. Up here is where we did some refinishing. You can see there's a little bit of fogginess, so definitely better than it was before, but still not perfect like down below. And if you're wondering why on the same car is it likely to be more foggy on one side versus the other, well, the side you say the fogginess is definitely the side that has the most sun exposure. Like when the car is parked in the driveway here, definitely that's the side that has more sun exposure, so not a surprise.